Hi, folks. What's happening? Entered into chapter 11. Means we're about 4 chapters left in the semester. And this particular section is on gender in the media. And in many respects, we've covered a lot of this stuff already. So we'll be revisiting some topics that uh, we saw in Tough Guys and some other stuff over the course of the semester. So one of the first things that you come across in the readings this week is this described love-hate relationship that we have with the media. You find yourself asking yourself, why is it that when something goes wrong in society, we blame the media, but when something goes right in society, the media doesn't get the credit? Part of that is because the media is a great straw person, to construct as the culprit, to blame for our problems without having to accept the responsibility ourselves. The media is a gendered institution. It's constructing a reality for us to consume, but ultimately we are the ones that are consuming the media, and ultimately we are the ones that are responsible. It's like saying guns don't kill people, people kill people. And in many respects, it's the same with the media. The media doesn't turn people into gendered individuals. People do. And we either buy into or don't buy into what the media is selling. And make no mistake, folks, they are selling something. As I mentioned, the media is a gendered institution. And if we're going to say something like that, what we're actually saying is that it reflects gender differences and inequality. It targets audiences that assume existing differences are out there. It constructs those gender differences even to much of an overkill on those differences themselves. Take, for example, pro wrestling. The masculine man is overly large and overly masculine, to the degree that it would most likely be unhealthy to strive to be that large and to be that masculine. But it emphasizes the differences between a feminine female and a masculine man, and leaves no doubt that there are differences. And of course, it reproduces gender inequalities, since media is one of the primary agents of socialization. We used to think parents, teachers, priests, or clergy people, but now we've also thrown peers and the media into the mix when we're trying to describe what the primary agents of socialization are. So if we are being gendered, it is our responsibility, but it's hard to resist the influx of the media forms into our lives, especially in the 21st century. It's hard to not take on some of the characteristics that the media place out there for us. Continuing this theme of media being a gendered institution, it's like many other institutions that are gendered, and all of our institutions are gendered in one way, shape, or form. And what we're saying is that they're providing material for construction of gendered identities. So we're learning how to be who we are in reference to these forms, these identities that they're laying out for us. When I think of what it means to be a little kid these days, what they're processing on the gender, or what they're processing in reference to gender on the Disney Channel, is very very informative and very formative. And it tends to maintain and reproduce gender inequality. Girls do girl things, boys do boy things, boys are successful, girls support their successful boy. And it makes inequality look natural. When we watch it on our favorite TV show, we see this is just the way it is. This is how males act. This is how females act. And then I've got to choose which one I'm going to be. And then you begin to construct your identity in reference to those characteristics. As I mentioned, in the 21st century, we are saturated with media. Just to kind of give you an idea of what that means, in the average American home, 63% have TV on during dinner. Two-thirds of kids have TV in their bedrooms. Kids spend an average 7 hours a day with some form of media. I'm guessing that those numbers are doing nothing but going up. I think it's something like half of American households have a TV on at all times. Think about yourselves. I know I have a TV on a lot, way more than I probably should. And it certainly helps me construct my reality in ways that are in line with what I'm watching. But at the same time, I like to think that I'm a critical thinker. I'm a highly educated person in this particular set of categories. So I can resist some of the siren songs of gender construction that are laid out there for us to become. But not everybody can. As I mentioned earlier, it used to be that the media was not considered part of the socialization process, mostly because the media was not near as prevalent as it has become since around the 1970s in our lives. TVs were not a permanent fixture in households until the 1960s. Before that, we had radio. And radio's just, as many of you know, radio is a different beast in reference to how it delivers its media. You can go out and do things when you're listening to the radio. You cannot go out and do things when you're watching TV. As I said, media and socialization is a new form. It's been added along with peers to the three primary target groups, parents, teachers, and religious leaders, if you will. Of course, media starts early in childhood. From the time you start watching images on TV, or your parents start reading you children's books, children's stories, that's when you start to figure out how to be a boy and a girl. That's when you're looking at images of boys and girls. Girls wear dresses, then they have long hair with pigtails. Boys wear pants, and they have short hair. Boys are more active, girls are more caring. These types of ideal types of gender construction become very, very impacting as we grow over time. The seeds of gender construction are laid early, and we reap the harvest as we grow older and our identity begins to really take shape. Television shows, of course, commercials, probably more so than television shows. I mentioned earlier Disney and Nickelodeon, and those are very, very important programs in the formation of your children's identities. And you can see immediate behavioral responses from children who, I don't know who the new folks are, but when I was thinking about this a few years back, it was Hannah Montana. All little girls wanted to be Hannah Montana. They wanted to act like Hannah Montana. Disney was constructing a gender type that Miley Cyrus performed as Hannah Montana. And many of the people that watched Hannah Montana and many of the Disney executives and representatives were appalled when Miley Cyrus decided to break the Hannah Montana mold and come in like a wrecking ball on gender construction. And nobody can look at Miley Cyrus today and say, oh, yeah, that's Hannah Montana. Mostly because Miley Cyrus removed herself. She became something fundamentally different than what Hannah Montana represented in order to reclaim once again her own identity and construct her own gender reality in whatever way she wanted. As we saw in the textbook, media and socialization generally only go one way. They talk about it as in reference to separate and unequal media. There's his media and there's her media. His media, of course, is things like Maxim, Sports Illustrated, of course, sports TV, action films. Republican radio has become a place where men can continue to construct their masculine identities. In the 1950s, we found TV accentuating differences in place. Male characters were way more active than female characters, and female characters were caring, and they were housewives, and they were in support of. There's a great video, a movie called Pleasantville, that deals with this issue quite a bit, and how historically the gender roles were very defined, and anyone that stepped outside of those roles had to suffer the consequences of their own social networks. Her media, of course, is Vogue, Oprah, romance novels, soap operas, chick flicks. But with the 1980s, all of a sudden we started, as the society started to change, as the ramifications of the civil rights movements rolled through the 1970s into the 1980s, and our populations began to accept diversity and ideas of equality, well, all of a sudden we started seeing different images on TV. Women became much more represented. They started taking on lead roles in TV shows, and this in turn brought women to watch TV. Women are now more likely to watch primetime TV than men are. So as this transformation starts to take place, men move away from the network television stations and women move towards them. So as the network television stations start to produce more diverse television shows, men move away and women move towards the networks. And we also see that men and women consume his media, but men do not consume her media. So what we're saying is that it's okay for women to watch sports. It's okay for women to be interested in ultimate fighting or action movies, but it's not okay for men to watch chick flicks and romances and Oprah.